Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Harry Muppet again. We're going to be casting the second in the series of games between Akilae and Sevchenko. This is actually a Game 1, Game 2 set of replays that I got off the internet, and last game Akilae won with a fairly aggressive expansion, up to 3 bases, and just an absolutely beautiful recall which destroyed a Terran drop, and so congratulations to him or her on that fantastic win, and we'll see if Sevchenko can respond in a very aggressive and very dominant way this game and pull out a win. So we'll see exactly what happens. This game, yeah, not too much to say about the bases. You just fairly standard second. Everything else though is a little bit hard to defend though. It's a little bit out there. Maybe this one is probably the best because it's one of the furthest ones away from the enemy base. But yeah, other than that, it's just a case of this area over here. This really wide open area is usually where a lot of the battles take place. So if the Terran player is really dominant, then there'll be a lot of action over this area, up this area, and vice versa for the Protoss player. Once again, we've got crisscrossing workers, crisscrossing scouts going over to the other base. So we'll see what happens. I actually had a look, and this game is a little bit shorter than the other one, so we're probably going to see a little bit more action a little bit early on. So we'll see what's going on. Choosing not to go for a sort of block off on the ramp here, and he's got to watch it because that SCV is yeah, he barely finished that and then got away, so it's good for him. This probe is just going to go back to scouting, and I don't know, maybe he'll jump in there and finish off this SCV before he finishes his scout run. I would not be surprised to see that, but of course if he goes in the middle of these SCVs, it's very easy to just get completely cornered and completely just annihilated. But here we go, here's the Marine, and that probe's days of scouting is going to be severely limited. So there we go, and we've got this SCV being chased back by the probe, so obviously the Protoss player did not like him nosing about, but he's going to get scared off now by that one Marine, and we'll see what happens in the rest of the game. He's just cancelled a tech lab and he's switched over to reactor. He's got a barracks coming up, a couple of barracks coming up. I assume he cancelled that because the Protoss player saw the tech lab and thought, oh, it's pretty standard, but now he's switching over to reactor. Now I would expect to see maybe a factory to say, well, he's going for fast Hellions, but maybe he's going to go for some sort of crazy mass marine build, which, I mean, you do see mass marine sometimes, but usually you see it in really low level bronze games where people just go absolute massive amount of marines and just attack you at like the 5-minute mark, and it is fairly effective, but it's also extremely easy, which is why you see a fair number of bronze players go for it. But we'll see exactly what happens here. Looks like he's keeping it on there. He's got tech labs going down here, so I'm not sure why he cancelled the tech lab over there. It doesn't really buy him anything, but he's going for 2 more tech labs over here, so it does look like he's not going for some sort of really crazy mass marine build. He is going to get some marauders out. These marines doing some very good micro there, sort of the sort of jig back a little bit, shoot, and then jig back a little bit and shoot, and that sort of thing. So he's got a very good thing going on there. Protoss only has 1 gateway, so this pressure is not intended to take the Terran player down. He's just probably having a little bit of a go, seeing what's going on. just trying to see what's going on. Meanwhile, he's got a mortal coming on and a couple more gateways. So in a few more minutes, it's possible that we could see some pressure, especially if he gets about 2 immortals out with a whole bunch of stalkers and zealots. And I mean, the Terran really needs to take out this pylon, because that'll be dangerous in a few minutes when those gateways come up and they all have warp gates and stuff like that. But then the Protoss player will be able to build a lot of pressure, and you can see the Terran player coming down here. He is searching for that proxy pylon. He probably has an idea that there's something around here somewhere. He can't find it, but he's looking in the wrong spot. He needs to look it up here, and I would not be surprised to see him go up there and try and check it out. Meanwhile, it's just more barracks and an engineering base, so we're definitely going to see some fairly heavy triple M action in this game. Stimpak is coming up. Has he got? He hasn't got shields. He may have the Marauder slowy thingamy-bob already, which is definitely good against Zealots. But here we go. We've got 2 Immortals, and this force, which has quite a few Marauders in it, is going to have some trouble against these guys, especially with the Mothership Core as well. They may still be able to hold it off, but it depends on where the Immortals get their hits. If the Immortals target the Marauders, then it might be quite devastating to this Terran army. So there we go. Looks like the Immortals were hitting a Marine there, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like the Terrans might be able to do something. However, they are losing quite a lot of forces to those Immortals. You can just see the Immortals just absolutely annihilate the Marauders. And that was just absolutely beautiful. It's actually ironically, the Immortals I think are armored, but I think the Marines actually do better against the Immortals than the Marauders, simply because they attack faster and they don't have really heavy attacks. Because anything that does heavy attacks against an Immortal, it just ends up sucking. So yeah, the Marines here, and I think the Terran is actually in quite a bit of trouble here. So here we go, that's that green thing. It actually slows down the attack speed of the units, and that was just a beautiful placement of that, but the Terran really didn't have enough forces to hold off there. So it's a very nice game, a very quick game, and an excellent use of the Immortals before the 10-minute mark hits. So you don't see Immortals used that often anymore. Usually it's Zealots, Stalkers and Colossus, a massive ground army, or they just got some sort of air hijinks, because Immortals have their uses, but you know, in a massive army their usefulness tends to go down a bit. They're really good when they're in small groups like this with just a little bunch of Stalkers and Zealots. They're a slightly quicker version of the Thor for the Terran army. If you manage to get a couple of Thors out by the 10-minute army, you can go in there and you can just blow up everything. You could hit a force of about 5 or 6 Stalkers and just wipe them all away. But later on in the game, when there's a whole lot of upgrades and there's a whole lot of other units, Thors they don't have a hard enough counter to anything, and there's quite a bit that actually has a hard counter to them. So you get a few Thors and you run and get up against like a Roach Hydra or something like that, and there's like 20 or 30 Hydralisks or something, and you've got like 5 or 6 Thors. The Thors have no chance at all at that point. They're too big and bulky, and they just don't do the damage fast enough. In the early game, just like the Immortals, their strength is their survivability. So when you've got these guys trading off against each other, the Immortals just last so long, and they just do so much damage while they're lasting that long. So I mean, this guy lasted up against like 5 or 6 Marauders or something like that, both of them just hitting away, and that was brilliant. But later on in the game, when there's just damage flying left and right, you got to think, what's the most efficient unit for doing damage? And with so much damage being fired at them, the Immortals just aren't that efficient. No, they're not as efficient as Stalkers, I don't believe, because they cost a hell of a lot. These guys do. They are not cheap in the slightest. So I don't know, you could probably buy like 2 to 3 Stalkers per Immortal, something like that. I can't remember exactly, and yeah, that really, at the end game, they're definitely not that cost efficient. But anyway, I've been going on a little bit too hard, so thank you very much for watching this, guys, and hope you guys have a good day.